outsiders coming in, which was your solo killers. There wasn't going to be in a gang. And these would consist of all races, mostly whites, because they wanted to come down here and buy their heroin, their crystal and stuff like that. And these guys thought some of these guys were punks. But these guys, they weren't in the Hell's Angel, they were Hell's Angel type guys. And when they came down here, you talking about the bloodbath, some of these white boys would mess these brothers up. And they didn't know what they was dealing with. Because you had these savage-ass killers that come out of Oklahoma, come out of Texas, Chicago, and it was something like a First Blood thing. If you saw that movie, The First Blood, when he went through that town, tore that whole town up, it was something like that when these white boys came into Skid Row. They would come in here and you didn't know him, and these guys would try to slap him upside the head or slap him upside the head, and that would be his one and only slap. Because these guys would get up with machetes, and some of them knew special skills, and they would cut half your body off. So I seen a white boy take his teeth and bite in the side of a black man's jaw and held it so tight he couldn't move. And the dude was but every time he tried to raise his hand and scream, he would bite harder, had him sticking on his toes. And bit a chunk out his jaw and spit on him. When the dude fell to the floor and grabbed his face, he thought it was over. It wasn't. He should have never messed that dude, because that white boy fucked around and killed him right there, just to let him know that you don't mess with people you don't know nothing about.
Facts.
Like one of my buddies told me one time, there was a Mexican with tattoos on him all across his body. And he said, he came to me stranger. He knew I get it a little bit, so he said, help me. He said, come on, back me up on this dude. And I saw this big Mexican. Now, size just came. I had been in 3 or 4 Mexican penitentiaries, so size didn't really scare me. It was a way to outthink size if you had to. But what really bothered me is that I asked him, when I said, yeah, we're going to beat this motherfucker all the way back to Mexico to the Desert Bowl. And I put my boots on and got ready, and I said, what did he do to us? And do we know this guy? We never met this guy before. And I said I wouldn't have nothing to do with it, because I didn't know the guy. So he went and got another one of my homeboys. They went after this Spanish dude, and this dude tore them apart. And I asked him, I say, he didn't kill him, but he tore him apart. And I asked him, I say, did you look at the tattoos? Some people had their tattoos so long they made mistakes when they were young. But they didn't care about this. They only wanted to be the king of Skid Row. And I told them then, you cannot have one king of all of Skid Row. And so when these bad guys came into Skid Row, like the hotel, the El Rey, when they came into this, in the Skid Row thinking they were going to be they won a couple fights, or they may fuck the dude up pretty bad. But eventually, no matter how bad as you was, you got to remember, you got these guys coming from all across the world. Chicago, because they done heard of this Skid Row. And it was a lot of money in Skid Row. And everybody was on the take back then. The reason it was so treacherous, so dangerous, because even the police was on the take. They were paying police officers off, and they would blind out of these murders. And we was making so much, we ride around our trunk with 4 and 5 keys of motherfucking cocaine in our trunk of our car. I had a friend named B-Roll. I won't call his whole name, but his name was B-Roll. He pulled up to the park in front of Julian one day, and the police pulled in right behind him. We was paying him off, but they didn't like this guy, because he wouldn't pay them. And they pulled up behind him, opened his trunk, and found 75 pounds of weed in the trunk of his car. That's how open the freelance was in Skid Row. And that's what brought these guys here for all that money. But once they got here, you had one guy named Hoover Jack walk around, hit your pockets like this. See if you got any money, rob you right there on the stand, on the spot. He killed a girl, they say, he killed the girl because she gave him AIDS, HIV. But now, this female did not make him have sex with her. He had sex with who he want. And that's what it was back then, because these dudes would get drugs and want to have sex with all these different females. But you know what Skid Row was that dangerous and they had that much violence that it was a lot of disease and a lot of sex happening and rapes down here at night. For the females that tried to hang up here. Which brings me to another point. The females are one of some of the toughest mothers around here. Because once you started raping them and beating them up, them girls would carry blades in their purse and everything, and they would con you and smile, cut your throat, cut your meat off. Sometimes they would go on the corner and know you're going to look at their butt, put booty shorts on and something, and get your, and then they say, and then you would try to walk up to them and talk and get a date, and they knew you was one of them asshole, vicious motherfuckers that done them, and they, oh yeah, baby, I'll give you a couple rocks. But these girls had them been lied to and beat on and played on and all this here. So they would say, okay, yeah, I'll get out with you and con you down the street in the dark. And then once you got down that street, 4, 5 more girls were walking behind that car with clubs and knives and shit. And you might hit one in the face, but are you going to hit that one behind you, beating you in the head with that club? How long can you take that many licks in the back of your head, that pain? Are you going to get the one that's on the side, or you study hitting you with a knife in your arm and on your side? And what about the girl that's at your feet, started beating your shin bone and your kneecaps because they hitting all the points to take you down? And once you fall to the ground, if you fell, it was truly over then. Because they piled around you like a bunch of hyenas and would have no mercy. Kill you dead right there in the dark. Like my homeboy Caveman up here on 7th and San Pedro. Con this girl, man, all day long and had an intent, I'm going to give you this. He was a big dealer and all that so much. And he conned this girl in the tent and did all kind of fine things with her. And gave her a nickel or a dime rock after all that sex. And he thought and laughed at it. And thought it was slick, like she couldn't do nothing, and went to his tent and went to sleep in a tent. Not a house with bars on it and a key to the door, but he went to a little flimsy-ass tent and went to sleep on this guy after doing it like that. The girl had an aluminum bat with spikes stuck all over the back and walked in his tent while he was asleep and started whooping him with them spikes in that aluminum bat till he was dead, and they found him in his tent dead. The guy down here, I'm going to get his name. He lived off of 7th between Crocker and Gladys. He was a speed freak, but they say speed made the girls horny. Okay, you might do a little bit of speed. It might give you a little anxiety for an hour or two, maybe 2 or 3 hours. But that don't mean you want to go on a tent and sit there and you love Chris so much that you going to go on a tent and stay there for 2 or 3 days doing nothing but sucking meat and getting hit in the butt and coochie all, and the man won't let you out. He would lock his tent and wouldn't let the girls out. But he did it to the wrong girl. Because one girl he got had family, and she went and told somebody, and they found him in the tent. Look at the picture on there. They found him in his tent in a chair like this here, with his throat cut, head back. Just like that. That's how he was found in his tent. Because he would take these girls in his tent and lock the tent up. And when they started doing crystal with them, he would rape these girls and make them stay there. Like they lay crib, because he gets so horny on the Chris, he want to have sex 3 or 4 days and all day. And you know how, well, take your person putting their shit in your mouth or your body all day, make you sick till you want to throw them. You won't let them out. And you're sick and you're looking at this man do this to you. But when she finally got out, he went home to his maker. Because whoever her family was, they was not going to tolerate. And do you know, he had a family member come up. And one dude, I was walking by his tent one day and I said, and I didn't make that. I seen the black guy standing out there. I didn't know him, but he was looking at the tent. I said, yeah, that's a sad thing, man. People live and come and die in Skid Row all the time. I've seen it for many years. The dude looked at me and said, well, what happened? Do you know what happened? I said, yeah, drugs happened. Just like that. And walked away. Because even though I don't approve of death, and I didn't want this guy to die, I wasn't going to sit there and feel sorry for this man at the same time. Because he brought that on himself. Keeping them girls in them tents, taking what he wanted to take. So I wasn't happy about his death, but I just said drugs happen and walk away. Because I don't want this guy feeling sorry for your brother. I know you miss your cousin or brother, whoever he is. I'm thinking in my mind, but you should have told him that before he took all them girls in the tent and put the lock on the tent and kept them in there regular. Just like you love your family member, somebody gonna love their family member. So,
Bucks.
and so when all these bad guys came from all over Chicago, which you will know had a badass reputation, come up in L.A., Skid Row, New York, Philadelphia, Detroit, which is another treacherous place, came up in the Skid Row. And then from the cities around L.A., you had bad names, big names around in the city, like Big Skillet, who's now in prison for Hoover Jack, Big Bunchy from Insane, Young Scotty from Lil Johnny from Hoover. All these were some of the most vicious names, and you couldn't show no fear in Skid Row. Even if you knew you was finna get in a fight and die, and both of y'all had guns and knives, you had to come in Skid Row and smile because you had to live up to that reputation of being bad. And people would look at me like they called me stranger at the time. I swear to God, when I come downtown, they would look at me and say, "Oh, that's stranger. He was born over there on Maple." He out of Hollywood. He do Hollywood. And they would look at other people and say, "That's Big Skillet from Grape. That's Bunchy from Insane. That's Hoover Jack from Hoover. That's Lil Johnny from Hoover. That's Scarface from East Coast." And all these names, when they heard this, would get jealous and envy each other. And the Mexicans wanted to make their mark. The Mexican Mafia. They didn't have all these they had colorful nicknames, but not as out there like we did, you know? And so when they got into the picture, it exploded a little bit more. It was just twin brothers, Crips and Bloods. So the Mexicans, Matavillas, White Fence, Bad Boys, 18th Street, all of them hated each other. They was killing each other. Brothers was killing each other. Mexican Mafia was killing each other. Everybody was killing. At one point, do you know I seen on the corner where they had Crips, Bloods, and Mexicans shooting like this here? Bow, bow, all of them was on a different corner. The police showed up and could not get order with voice, with mouth. So they start breaking out their shit. Bam, bam. So you got 4 people on 4 different corners shooting at each other. But now the other 3 had to back down because when the police couldn't get it under control with them little Glocks, you know the heavy equipment came in there. And so when they came in there with the big guns, the little guns had to take off and run. You know, and it was so much shooting that it was so smoky out there that it was like the 4th of July. You thought you would saw firecrackers and cherry bombs. That's how much the shooting was back then. But then Skid Row was wide open territory. So you got to remember, there is no order. Like that man said Blown Away, Tommy Lee Jones and Jeff Bridges. I have come to start a new government called Anarchy. A new order called Chaos. That's what it was in Skid Row, anarchy and chaos. And the police couldn't get no order, but when it started branching out, when these white boys started coming into Hollywood, taking it back to Hollywood, and this bloodbath started, and they started defending themselves, some of the people leave here to go get the white boys. But when they got over there, they wasn't just getting white boys, because you got to remember, you now into the territory of the skinheads and the Hell Angels. So now when you in Hollywood, you into their area. The Hells Angels been here forever. You know that. And they are prepared to die and kill. Their legend is based on killing and not being afraid of death. And then you got the Nazi guys with the Nazi tricks with the skinheads up in Hollywood too. They warn against the Hells Angels, but then when these brothers go up in there, they will see. It was like it's a surprise. Some of these guys had special skills. They went martial art classes. Some of them would carry chains, and they were rough. Tattoos, scars all across their face, rough looking, and they were nasty and mean and wasn't scared to die. I seen a dude coughing up blood one time on the ground, and he was laughing while he was dying. Yeah. Right there on Lost Town, he's sitting on the sidewalk, and he comes, they say, "I'll see you when you get there, Papa." When I looked at this white boy do that, I thought, This man dying and coughing up blood out of his mouth. And he's smiling and telling his homeboy, I'll see you when you get there.